Meaning, if they are not getting the answers that they're wanting from their pediatricians, they need to make phone calls. They need to get out there and talk with professionals that can diagnose and treat symptoms related to autism spectrum. It's very important for parents to not think of the diagnosis as a stigma. The early intervention will help your child receive what they need, which is very important at such an early age.
And remember that when a doctor diagnoses your child within that autism spectrum, that doesn't mean that your child is going to be uncommunicative and not have any social skills.
Absolutely. It just means at that particular time, they have characteristics on the spectrum. It can change. It can change. William has already made tremendous progress in the past year at the Jane Justin School. When we started last year, he wasn't potty trained, and now he's potty trained and he's reading, and he's not yet 5. So not only does the school work on the social skills building, group building, the necessary things that are related to the spectrum, but they are also working on academics.
I may want to send some of the guys that I know to the Jane Justin School, and they're already adults. But it's very, very important, as you say, to be proactive, because there is no known cure for autism, Dr. Cammilleri, but yet you hear all the time of parents like Melanie who are proactive and who won't settle for their child's diagnosis. Jenny McCarthy, the actress, talking about her child with autism and how she's been able to bring him out. Other stars as well coming out about different things that you can do with your child to help them.
There are a lot of things that can be done. One of the things that makes the Child Study Center unique is that all of the interventions that we use are science-based, evidence-based. So the run-of-the-mill quackery that exists in our culture, it seems like everybody's coming up with a new therapy every other week. But the truth of the matter is that autism is a serious condition. It's a neurological condition. It's a lifelong condition. However, the symptoms of autism can be changed such that an individual can become virtually indistinguishable from their peers. And I think that's the kind of outcome that Melanie is talking about. Already she's detecting many fewer autistic symptoms in her child than he had just a year ago.
So there is hope.
Yes, tremendous hope for these children. They're wonderful children. They deserve the very best, but it's not an easy road. And if anyone tries to tell you otherwise, you have to take a second look at it. The phrase I like to use is extraordinary claims usually are.
And that has to do with everything, even diets.
Yes, indeed. Yes. You got it.
At the recent Emmy Awards, one of the big winners was the HBO movie Temple Grandin, about a woman with autism whose mother did not give up despite the diagnosis. Did you guys happen to see the movie?
Oh, it was wonderful. She's a fantastic success story.
She's a doctor. She's like changed the way that people look at cows.
Yes, indeed. She found something that interested her, which, interestingly enough, was a characteristic of children with autism. They tend to have more narrow interests, but when they get a hold of something that they really enjoy, they tend to delve into it 100%. And this is the case with Temple, and she's gone on to make many contributions to the world. In fact, that reminds me, children diagnosed with autism, when they are given early intensive behavioral intervention, supplemented also with medical, science-based medicine, they can have tremendous outcomes.
Yes.
The thing to point out, I think, is that although those children start off with a devastating diagnosis, the road ahead is going to be hard. But if you give the intervention that is necessary, 30 to 40 hours a week of intensive behavioral support, the outcomes can be wonderful. And over the long haul, you can take an individual who would have otherwise been a consumer of tax dollars in terms of long-term respite care, money that the state needed to provide to support them. You educate them, you give them the skills that they need to be successful in our community, and they become taxpayers. They become contributors to the society. In fact, there's an article that was published by Mulick, Green, and Jacobson. I may have got the names of the authors out of order, but at any rate, they estimate that when given early intensive behavioral support for children with autism, they can save the taxpayers an estimated $2 million over the course of their lifetime, multiply that by the number of children that we serve, and that is many, many millions of dollars that we save the community.
It reminds me that instead of thinking of a person as handicapped, thinking of them as handy-capable. And one of the things about watching the movie Temple Grandin is seeing how her mind worked. It was amazing to see how intelligent she was, and that we should not look at someone with a diagnosis of learning differences or developmental disabilities and think that they are less than us.
Absolutely. It's very important when you get that diagnosis and you're a parent to not only seek early intervention and be an advocate, but also the hope. These children are highly intelligent, and yes, they do have developmental differences, but they can get there. There is hope.
And they can change the world.
Absolutely.
Yes.
My guest once again, Dr. Anthony Cammilleri, the director of the Jane Justin School, a department within the Child Study Center in Fort Worth, which provides instruction for children with developmental disabilities and learning differences. And Melanie Fowler is here. Her child, William, who's 4 years old, is a student at the Jane Justin School and a client of the Child Study Center. Well, let's talk about the upcoming Puzzle Scuttle 5K and Fun Run, which is aimed at raising awareness of autism and developmental disabilities, and which, of course, will benefit the Child Study Center of Fort Worth. It's going to be taking place Saturday, November 13th at Lake Benbrook Dutch Branch Park. What do you want people to know about the Puzzle Scuttle?
It's going to be very exciting this year. It is our second annual Puzzle Scuttle. This group was formed by mothers of children at the Jane Justin School, the Child Study Center. It's a way for these women to get involved to raise money for the Center for Children with Autism and Developmental Delays. This year, our goal is to raise $20,000. Last year was our first year. We raised $7,000. So this year we're definitely shooting for the gold, and we're very excited. We have a lot of exciting events. We have a family fun run, which is a 1 mile. It's a way for families to get out there with their children. We're going to be presenting awards. We have a 5K run, so all you runners out there, if you're interested in clocking your time, we have a 5K. We also have a lot of generous donations. We have Chick-fil-A. We have cows coming out there. We have Central Market and McKinley's Bakery will be providing food as well. And we have a jump house, music, lots of fun.
So fun for the whole family.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Of course, raising awareness about autism and raising much needed funds for the Child Study Center in Fort Worth. And if somebody wants more information, go to the website, cscfw.org, as in Child Study Center Fort Worth, cscfw.org. And the proceeds will benefit not only the Child Study Center, but your Children's Care Fund, which provides diagnosis and treatment services to uninsured children with developmental disabilities.
Yes, and you can also go to active.com and put in Puzzle Scuttle. We're also on Facebook, and you can just type in the Child Study Center.
Dr. Cammilleri, what is the most important thing that you want parents to know if they receive a diagnosis of either autism or developmental disability?
To not wait and to never be satisfied. There must be a sense of urgency in parents with children diagnosed with developmental disabilities, because time marches on regardless of the traumatic events in our life. We have to move quickly. So early diagnosis is absolutely important, but that's not enough. That's only a piece of the puzzle that we talk about. You then very quickly have to turn your attention to getting appropriate services. And if your school district is not providing those services, you really do need to advocate and push to get them to provide the service that your child needs. And if you're not getting it from your public school, there are several private agencies like the Child Study Center that will be able to help get that ball rolling for you. In order to do this, you have to create a very large community, reach out to other families with children who have developmental disabilities. Remember, 20% of all children born will have a developmental disability of some sort, so the networks are out there to tap into. That's my primary message. I think a secondary message is to watch out for quackery. Unfortunately, there are too many people out there looking to take advantage of a very needy population.
Yes. Get the facts.
Get
Yes.
the facts.
And make sure you do your research.
Yes, indeed.
And Melanie, it sounds like you've done your research ever since William was first diagnosed, ever since you first noticed that there were some issues with William. What's the most important message that you want to get across to parents?
Early intervention. I think when there's a concern, you need to make phone calls. You get on every list that you can. You have a developmental pediatrician look at your child and assess to see what's going on. You definitely need to be an advocate, but you need early intervention, and you need to get it checked out as soon as possible.
And I know a lot of moms that are out there as warriors, making sure that the research is being done and that the services are available. Speaking of early intervention and being proactive in your child's education, at this time, I want to invite Marnie Danielson to join our conversation. Marnie's an occupational therapist who works with special needs kids in Dallas. She is not with the Child Study Center in Fort Worth, but Marnie has made a real breakthrough in teaching autistic children how to read and write with a series of videos. And so I have asked her to join us this morning, along with Dr. Cammilleri from the Child Study Center in Fort Worth and Melanie Fowler, whose child is a student at the Jane Justin School. Marnie, thank you so much for joining us. I want to know how you came up with the idea for the videos to help teach kids with special needs.
Well, I am an occupational therapist. I had a clinic in Atlanta, Georgia, and I owned it for about 6 years and had been working in pediatrics for about 13. And I just have seen more and more children on the spectrum coming through the door for therapies, which I'm a huge advocate of. And a mother walked in one day. Her son had a diagnosis of autism. He was 5 years old. She had been working on pre-writing with him, just trying to get him interested in writing. She was getting nowhere. She had been at 2 other OTs for the past 2 years. Nothing was working. I started working with him. We weren't getting much out of him fine motor-wise or writing. And this was a very important skill to her, that he write his name in kindergarten. And so she had a brilliant observation. She said, I see my son watching TV and being able to generalize it. Let's see if we can video you and what happens. So she videoed me writing one day, and I did these rhythmic repetitive chants for him, up and around, letter C, over and over on the video, and interluded with, C is for clock and C is for cat. And then she showed him the video and called me hysterical crying. He was writing in 10 minutes, the letter C. So what took, years to try to get interest in, he was able to mimic through video modeling. And not only was he able to mimic it after watching it, but then he was able to generalize it so he could use it in other environments, that skill. So we started making him these video presents, and that's really how my work began, doing video modeling for children with autism.
Is this something that you find at the Jane Justin School that works for kids on the autism spectrum, Dr. Cammilleri?
Yes, indeed. Video modeling is a very well-recognized intervention within the behavior analytic community. There are several studies in our literature that point to its effectiveness, and it can be used to teach a whole range of skills. I'm very happy to hear